Autoimmune rehab is for you if you think you have an autoimmune condition, know you have one and are struggling, or just want to listen and learn all you can about how to heal from autoimmune conditions. Have you ever asked yourself any of these questions? Why won't medications heal my autoimmune condition? I've already given up gluten and dairy, but I still feel sick. My doctor said my labs are normal, but I still feel sick and tired a lot. Can you really heal from an autoimmune condition? What does it take to really thrive with autoimmune conditions? What role does stress play in autoimmune conditions? What is really the best diet for autoimmune? This is Anna Laura Brown, host of Autoimmune Rehab. I started this podcast because I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2018 and wanted to inspire hope and transform health for people with autoimmune challenges. So keep listening and let's get you the help and hope you really need. Okay, everybody. So for today's guest, I am happy to welcome D20 Man to the podcast and Autoimmune Rehab. And she comes to us from across the pond from the UK. And she's going to start off by introducing herself. But just a few of the things we're going to talk about is we're going to talk again about chronic pain, some things relating to your mind, body, and spirit connection, IBS, and some other really fun stuff. So welcome to Autoimmune Rehab, D. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Anna Laura. That's lovely of you. Yes, my name's Dee Twentyman and I'm a hypnopsychotherapist. I am in the United Kingdom, in the north of the country, and I've been here for quite a number of years now. And I work with people who have, mainly women actually, with women who have chronic pain conditions, and specifically IBS, and all the associated things that come along with that. So fatigue, migraines, skin issues, because the gut affects all parts of our body. So I deal with all of that, and I use hypnotherapy to help women to actually reclaim their lives and get some balance back in their lives. And I work a lot around the mind and body connection. So all of the associated psychological and emotional components of pain that can either make the pain worse or can actually improve it, depending on which road we go down.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So I know we've had a few other guests, and the people that have been listening for a while probably remember some of the other interviews that I've talked with about hypnotherapy. But tell us, for those people that maybe still don't really understand what it is, what exactly is hypnotherapy?
This is my pet subject, to be fair, because there are a lot of people who still have misconceptions around hypnotherapy and hypnosis in general, really. The hypnosis is purely a focused concentration on a concept or an idea. And we have been, believe it or not, every single member of the human race has been in and out of hypnosis every single day of their life since the moment they were born. And it's purely a brainwave state. So if you understand the brainwaves, we have delta, theta, alpha, beta, we have somnambulism, and theta brainwave state is the learning state. And that's really where we pick up all of our habits and all of our belief systems from. So the theta brainwave state is a slowed down electrical state of the brain. So all our brainwaves are electrical, and theta is the one that we enter into a number of times a day. So we're in a form of hypnosis when we're drifting off to sleep, waking up from a long sleep, daydreaming, driving the car on automatic pilot, and you wonder how on earth you've got there and you can't remember the journey. That is a theta brainwave state. And somebody like myself can simply help other people to access that brainwave state by suggesting certain words, suggesting certain feelings that they might feel in order to help them to heal in some way. So it's really a normal God-given part of your brain. We can't not have it.
That's interesting. I love that explanation, because I think a lot of people, you're right, they have misconceptions of what it is. They think of, the magician on the stage that turns people into some kind of a crazy state or makes them do things that they're not wanting to do or aren't aware of. You know, they don't think of it as, you know, a normal part of life. So I love that explanation.
It's, yeah, a lot of the hype around it is purely from people who can use that with other people who are willing. The thing is, the people on stage have to be willing participants. The person sitting in front of me in a therapy situation has to be a willing participant. If somebody said, oh, you will not be able to hypnotize me, I often say, you're right. Because you don't want to be. So that's the thing, you know, you have to be a willing participant in it. And I use the kind of situation as if somebody was sitting in front of me and they came to see me for, let's just say weight loss. Okay, they came to see me, they wanted me to help them with weight loss. Then if I was to start suggesting that they empty their bank account at the end of the session and give me all their money, then their subconscious would not allow that to happen. They would instantly go, what? That is a what's it called? It's a pattern interrupt. Okay, it's a pattern interrupt of the brain that would just not allow that to happen. So we can't be controlled under, I'm going to use that word because that's what people use. We're not under anything. We can't be controlled while we're in that state. We are in the most self-controlled state in that state that we've ever been, because your subconscious wants to keep you safe. It's its only job. So it won't allow those things to happen.
That's interesting. Yeah, I love that explanation too. So obviously you work a lot with women that have chronic IBS. There's definitely some crossover there with autoimmune conditions, because a lot of people that have autoimmune conditions also have gut issues. It's pretty common actually to even have IBS and have other autoimmune conditions and things going on. So what do you find? I would assume that the women that come to you typically have tried a lot of things. They don't just all of a sudden come to you and say, oh, let me try this hypnotherapy without, you know, either they've been the gamut through the doctors, they've tried the diets, they've tried the supplements, they've tried all the different things. What do you find is a common thread with women that come and see you specifically? And what are some of the things that they've maybe tried that they feel like just didn't work, or, you know, expand on that a little bit?
Yes, you've really hit the nail on the head there, Anna Laura. It's about, they've tried almost everything that the medical profession have offered them, really. They've had the pain medications, they've had the gut medications to stop bloating and gas, they've tried diets, not to eat certain foods, to include certain foods, they've done supplements, they've changed the amount of water they drink, they've changed all kinds of different things. They've obviously done what they can with what was on offer, because that's all we can do. I was exactly the same kind of person as that. I didn't know until I started exploring it for myself with my own condition that there was anything else that I could do. And I went through procedures in the hospital. I had a colonoscopy, I had an endoscopy, I had biopsies taken of my gut, which I'm still suffering from now. Having, you know, pieces of my gut taken and put under a lab microscope to study the cells, whatever they do with them. And some women have had hysterectomies because they were told it was a gynecological problem. Some women have had their ovaries removed. Some have had, you know, parts of their bowel removed. There's been all kinds of things, unnecessary things that they've had done to them. And a lot of them are in a really, really bad place. And it's hypnotherapy, unfortunately, has been the last resort. And the one thing that I hear from the people I've seen over the last 26 years is, I wish I'd come to you first. That's what I hear from them all the time, because it's now recognized as the foremost treatment for IBS.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's clinically proven.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we'll have to find some resources and link to them so that people can read about it and that kind of stuff. So how did you find hypnotherapy then? What led you to
Yeah.
discovering it?
Well, I found it because I had suffered from IBS since I was a child. I was only a little girl. I was having all sorts of things happening to me when I was a child, things that I kept in, things that I didn't tell anybody through shame and not wanting to upset members of the family and all of those kinds of things. That's your mindset stuff going off, and you try and be the the one that doesn't want to rock the boat as a child. You just want everyone to be happy and everything to be okay. But I kept it held in. And then I was being bullied at school, and there was all those kinds of things going on. So I was diagnosed with a nervous tummy, is what they called it way back then, And then my mum was given all kinds of different things to treat me, and it didn't really work because those other things kept happening. The mind things kept happening, were still going on. I was still holding things in, not telling anybody what was going on properly. And when I did, nobody believed me, and that just made the matter worse. So all of that went on. And then I went into quite difficult relationships. There were some domestic violence relationships I ended up in, and all these kinds of things were happening. And my IBS got really, really bad. And I call it my IBS because that's what I used to call it. I don't call it mine anymore. I think we don't need to keep that word in there. It's not mine. It just is what it is. But I started to look at what is it about my lifestyle that needs to change. And it was me. I needed to change. It was the level of control I felt I had. It was the staying quiet. It was the mind that was stressed. It was the anxiety around, what if I say this? What if I say that? I believe this will happen if I say this. I'll believe that will happen if I say this. I'll be cast out. It'll be worse. So we tell ourselves all these things. We build up a belief system and we believe it, and we spend the rest of our life trying to prove it's true. So that's when I realized it wasn't the food, because I was eating like a bird. I hardly ate anything because I thought, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. But actually, it didn't stop the symptoms. So it kind of got to me at the age of about 35, 36 that I had to do something else. And I started looking at the mind and body connection. I started going into therapy. And I then started to work in that area myself. And I took my psychology degree. I then became a psychotherapist, and I realized the quickest way to do this is to look at something completely different, and it was hypnotherapy. And I studied with Dr. Peter Warwell. He is a gastroenterologist in the UK. He did a pilot project on gut-specific hypnotherapy for IBS, and he did a pilot project over a number of years, and 80% of his patients became well, as opposed to the control group. And that's the report I'd love people to take a look at, because he was the person that I followed and trained with, and I now use his protocol to help people.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, we'll definitely find the link. We'll share it so people can take a look at it. So what do you think, obviously there's a lot of different things that a lot of us all think need to change about medicine, and, we'll call it the Western world, What kinds of things do you think need to happen so that if hypnotherapy doesn't become the last resort for people?
Oh, that's a big question, Anna Laura.
I'm sure it is.
Because we have to change the whole medical system in order for that to change. The medical system, in my many years of experience, because I've worked in mental health for 30 odd years now, and it's a big behemoth of a system that really needs to be dismantled completely. I believe that the medical system is great for acute care, okay? So you're in a car accident, you need an operation, you need surgery for something else, you've got something that is really, really needing to be done, and you need medication for acute pain. It's great for that. But when it comes to the mind and the body, when it comes to chronic conditions, it never works, because it's all about symptom management. The medical profession is all about symptom management when it comes to chronic illness. It's not a cure. There isn't a cure in that respect. And I don't believe they intend to have a cure, because it's a business, and businesses don't last if they cure all their patients. They need an income coming in from all of that medication. So it's just about symptom management. And I think if we wanted hypnotherapy to be part and parcel of what here in the UK would be the NHS, if the NHS were to completely embrace it, which not all hospitals do, some do, because of obviously Dr. Peter Walwell was working in the NHS in Manchester, and that hospital recommends it, but not all hospitals or health areas in the UK offer that. And another thing as well with hypnotherapy is it's an unregulated profession, if you like.
Yeah.
So you voluntarily register, and so the NHS, being a statutory body, will only recommend things that they want to recommend, that they aren't going to get sued over if it goes wrong or things like that happen. And because this kind of therapy is unregulated, you can have anybody coming along and doing a weekend course in how to hypnotize somebody and put a plaque on their wall and say that they're a hypnotherapist. That needs to change.
Yeah.
We need to change that. I used to work in Harley Street. I don't know if any of your listeners know, but Harley Street is the elite, street of private medicine that, most of your celebrities would, if they want something done, they go to Harley Street, right? It's just that. I don't know if you've ever heard of it over there, but in the UK, it's the elite place. I used to work there, and you couldn't offer the treatment unless you could really show your expertise and your skill and your time, be time served, if you like. So I think that would need to change. It needs to change so that people can trust whoever they're going to, because without you won't come to any harm. I just want to put that out there. You can go to a hypnotherapist who's was a bus driver on a Friday and says he's a hypnotherapist on the following Monday morning. It's not going to do you any harm, but it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money if that person isn't properly trained, doesn't understand the workings of the subconscious mind properly enough to be able to actually give you any beneficial. You just go to sleep and it'll cost you 120 quid.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of good nuggets there. So what are some things that people should ask when they're looking for somebody? Obviously, we'll include your information, so people can reach out. You obviously are a much more experienced professional, but let's say, maybe somebody's trying to find somebody a little more local to them, even though I'm sure they probably could hire you to work with them virtually. What kinds of things should somebody ask to determine if somebody is actually a qualified professional in the hypnotherapy area?
They need to be a member of a professional body, and that professional body is the one that actually makes sure that their qualifications are correct. So if they're on a list of a professional body, so that like the Hypnotherapy Association here in the UK, the American Association of Hypnosis, then if they're on a list like that, then you can pretty much be sure that that professional body has really gone through and made sure that you are on that list for a reason. So I would make sure that they've got that level of protection from, not being seen by somebody who's had, 48 hours worth of swinging a watch.
That's good. Obviously, and of course, the same advice applies to hypnotherapists that would apply to, health coaches, doctors, chiropractors, anything else. If you try somebody out and you're just not feeling the benefit, then, find another one,
Well, that's true. Yes. Every alternative or complementary therapist or specialist would really need to prove their efficacy, if you like, and their credentials. And so I would always recommend going to find somebody in your local area. If you're wanting to see somebody face to face in an office and you can sit up, on the other side of the desk to somebody, then I would be suggesting that people look in their local area for someone who is a member of a professional body, no matter whether it's a functional medicine practitioner, whether it's a chiropractor, osteopath, you name it, hypnotherapist. That's where I would be first going and making sure that that's where you go. And even then, when you actually have your first initial consultation with somebody, one of the other main factors of success is whether you have rapport with that person. So you could go and see somebody and you just don't gel with them. There's something about their energy. There's something that doesn't sit right. There's something about their process, the way that they work, that doesn't quite fit you. And it's okay to say, thank you very much for the information, and I'll get back to you if I feel like it's something I want to do. I want to move forward with you. The same goes for a therapist. If a therapist has somebody sitting in front of them in that consultation for the first time, and they don't feel that they can actually get success for that person, it's only right, and I've done this many times, it's only right that they refer them on to someone else, because rapport is really important. You have to like, know, and trust that the person in front of you, your patient, is going to do everything that they need to do on their side to affect the change that they want. So if they're going to tell you the whole truth, the one thing I say to them is, please tell me the whole truth. Don't leave anything out. Don't add anything in, because I need to work with what you give me. And if you leave something out or add something in that's just hearsay or whatever, then I'm working with an imaginary person. I'm not working with a real person in front of me. I need to work with you. And there's no judgment here. Nobody's going to say, oh, well, that wasn't a very nice thing to do, or that wasn't a very nice thing to say, or whatever. There's no judgment. It's all about helping the client to get the best result as quickly as possible. And so I always say to people, be radically honest, because then we're going to get somewhere and we're going to get there quickly. So these are really important things. It's not just about the plaque on the wall and, the certificates and the letters behind your name. It's all about, yes, that's important, but on the day-to-day basis, when you're going in to see that person who's helping and supporting you and guiding you through this process, you have to really have a great relationship with them and trust them enough to open up to them. So it's really important. That is very, very important.
Yeah, I can totally see that for sure. Absolutely. So about how long does it typically take somebody to, shall we say, get healed, go into remission, whatever terminology you want to use there, once they start working with you? Is it like a 6-month process, a year process? How long does it take somebody?
So that's like, how long's a piece of string?
Okay.
Because every single person is a unique individual. And some people take to the process of hypnotherapy pretty quickly. In the first session, some people can actually feel like they've allowed themselves to enter that state and they've got a lot of benefit from it. Some people take 3 to 4 sessions to feel totally comfortable in allowing that to happen. So it can take anywhere between 6 to maybe 12, 18 weeks. And that's kind of a broad spectrum. Things come up. So things come up through the sessions that we might have to do a detour on and actually work on that part of it as well. So, but I would say roughly between 6 to 12 weeks, we are really rocking. You should be able to see some real massive improvements.
That's awesome. So you work with most of your clients about once a week then? Is that a pretty typical amount of time?
So the process that I use is they come to see me for the first session, which is probably about 90 minutes. And that is where we get all of the information, as much information as we possibly can. And then they come back to see me the following week. Then they don't come back to see me for a couple of weeks, but they have what's called a listening schedule. So they have hypnotherapy recordings to listen to over the 2 weeks, from 1 week to the next, and then from 2 weeks to the next session with me. And it goes on from there. So the listening schedule takes 21 weeks. And they don't see me every week for 21 weeks, but we meet up in that time scale. So the last sessions probably see me for 6 of those sessions, and then the rest of the time is self-directed.
Okay, awesome, cool. And do you work more with people in person, or do you find that you do a lot of virtual work now too?
I do much more virtual work now. So I just thank God for the internet.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It gives you a wider audience so people can connect with you and that kind of thing.
Oh yes,
So
it's much better to do it the way that I'm doing it now, because it means I can reach people globally who, you know, I would never have met, and they would never have known that I was there. So yeah, it's much better to do it that way.
For sure, absolutely. So anything else that you feel like people should know, either about you or about hypnotherapy, about IBS, that we haven't already talked about?
I would just say that IBS is a stress and anxiety condition. It is real. I'm not saying it's all in your head, but it's induced by stress and anxiety in the main. I also work with functional medicine and homeopathy and herbalism. So everything I do is all around natural remedies, and that's to maintain your health after you've been to see me as well. So there are lots of things that I've got in the toolbox, lots of modalities that I use. I also work alongside it's a science, it's a biological science called German New Medicine. And that's another thing that I put in there as well, which is quite unique to have a hypnotherapist using German New Medicine. And it's all about the 5 biological laws, but that's another conversation. So it's too deep to actually go into at this point. But yeah, I've got a bag of tools that I use that makes what I do quite unique from many other people.
That's awesome. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing. So I know you have a free ebook that we will link to where people can go and grab that. We'll probably link to your website as well. And then I know she has at least 1, maybe 2, I don't know, Facebook groups where she does a lot of different lives and interviews, and you can connect with other people and learn more and, connect with her too. So we'll link to those as well. And so now the final question I want to ask you is, if you could go back in time to, let's say, when you had your IBS, but before you knew about what hypnotherapy is, or before you knew what it was or what it could do, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you would have told yourself then?
To look at my part in that, my mind, to look at my own thought processes and to really work on that. I would be journaling, I would be writing out my emotions, I would be really going in and getting some help on past traumas and all of that kind of thing. That is really what I would be doing. And then looking at tidying it up with some hypnotherapy and really, really putting that to bed.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming on. We've shared a lot of great stuff. So yeah, like we said, her links will be below in the description. And if you have related at all in any way, or feel like you could use some help with this, which I'm sure a lot of us could, feel free to reach out and connect with Dee.
Thank you very much, Anna Laura, for having me. It's been really fascinating and interesting to be able to tell people about hypnotherapy, because it is a very mistaken, misinterpreted wonderful therapeutic tool, and I think more people need to know how wonderful it actually is. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Autoimmune Rehab. If you found it helpful, I'd like to encourage you to please reach out to at least one person in your life that you know could benefit and share this episode with them and invite them to subscribe and continue learning all about how they too can benefit from the words of wisdom and the different stories and things to help people improve their lives with autoimmune conditions and help you achieve true healing. I'd also appreciate any feedback you have, as well as if you leave me a review or rating on either Apple Podcasts or in the Spotify app. And want to take things to the next level? My podcast is sponsored by my brand new online community and training where we get together for weekly office hours, monthly trainings and support, as well as worksheets, different things like that to help you improve even more on your journey to autoimmune healing. It's called the Essential Wellness Circle, and I'd love to have you join me inside the circle. You'll find the link in the show notes this podcast, but it's at essentialwellnesscircle.com. I do hope you'll check out this community and the details about what it takes to join. It's a little bit of a different kind of a community, but I'd really love to have you join. And again, thanks for listening to Autoimmune Rehab.